Extra 1. Missing by everything but the girl. Every day was a jagged edge since the breakup. Shelley hadn't just moved away, she'd systematically erased me, blocking my number and leaving a hole where my heart used to be. I knew I'd get over her eventually, but eventually felt like a lifetime away. As I drove down her old road, the radio began to hum. And I miss you, like the desert missed the rain. I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. My black hair was spiked, a punk rock mask for the tears blurring my blue eyes. Why did she move? She never told me where she was going. I could still feel the phantom sting of her pushing me off her porch steps, the cold finality of her voice telling me it was over. My phone buzzed. It was Peter. We'd only been friends for a year, but we were tight. He was a black man, about 5'10", with a head of hair that was a constant talking point for every woman we met. "Hey, Mike, where are you?" "Home," I lied, "cooking bacon." "Bullshit. I'm at your house." "Fine," I sighed, turning the wheel. "I'm on her street, but I didn't park this time, I swear." "Mike, what the hell, man? That's just weird. Go home. We're going out." I pulled into the driveway and found Peter already in my kitchen, assembling a turkey sandwich like he owned the place. "You still talking to Concert Girl?" he asked, nodding at my phone. "Butterfly, my giant 805, I corrected. "She's cute. Emo hair, cat-eye makeup, trying for a world record with butterfly tattoos." "She wants to meet at the show this weekend," Peter said, pinning me with a look. "Go." "I'm not ready, man." "The only way to get over a girl is to get under a new one." Peter laughed, throwing a bag at me. "Pack. We're heading to Cal's in Buffalo first." He pushed me toward the closet, mocking my color-coordinated hangers. He tossed clothes into a duffel and pointedly left out the underwear. "You won't need 'em," he joked. He made me text Butterfly right then and there. When she replied with a "fuck yeah," the pit of my stomach did a somersault. As we walked to my red compact, Peter was thrusting his hips in the driveway, chanting, "Get some! Get some!" I couldn't help but laugh. For the first time in weeks, I didn't look back at Shelley's house as we hit the highway toward Buffalo.
Stop the Rock! Apollo 440. Peter hit play, and Stop the Rock by Apollo 440 blasted through the speakers. He reached over and cranked the volume to the limit. The front driver's side speaker crackled under the weight of the bass, vibrating against the doorframe. Peter punched me in the arm, a wide grin on his face. "Road trip! Road trip!" he chanted. Peter always knew how to make things exciting, even a stretch of lonely highway. The interstate still intimidated me. I was only 19. I'd had my license for 2 years, but I still felt like a novice. Every time a semi-tractor trailer roared past, the vacuum of air shook my confidence. "Step on it, man. Let's go faster," Peter urged. He started a rhythmic chant. "Faster, faster, faster, you bastard." "Fine, Peter, let's go." I floored the gas. The car surged forward, the engine's roar competing with the rising tempo of the music. "That better?" I shouted, though I could barely hear my own voice. We were hitting 100 miles per hour. The steering wheel began to vibrate in my hands as the car pushed its mechanical limits. "Faster! Faster!" Peter kept going. I finally eased off the pedal as we rounded a bend, spotting a state trooper idling in the emergency lane. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. "Damn, you got lucky," Peter said, laughing. That was Peter. Always pushing the line, always finding the humor in the near miss. When we reached Rochester, we pulled into a rest stop to hit the John and grab a burger. We walked past rows of cars packed into the lot like sardines. I wondered where everyone was headed. Work trips, vacations, or perhaps a somber drive to visit a sick relative. The thought dampened my mood for a second. Inside, the lobby was swarming. It looked like a United Nations meeting. a blur of every nationality imaginable. I made my way to the restroom, where Peter was already at a urinal. I took the spot next to him. The urinals went all the way to the floor, tall enough to accommodate a statue. At the bottom sat a beehive-textured urine cake. I couldn't help but think, someone is getting rich off these things. Suddenly, Peter leaned over, looking over my shoulder. "Let me see what you're working with, sailor," he deadpanned. "Get the fuck off me, man." I shoved him away with my shoulder. He was always joking, but I figured someday he'd pull that on the wrong person. We joined a long line behind some foreign tourists. They were struggling to order until the cashier pulled out a picture menu from under the counter. They pointed, she nodded. It was a simple, wordless transaction. The universal language, I thought. While we waited for our food, a girl walked by who stopped us both in our tracks. Her brown hair was swept into a messy bun, and she wore tight jeans with high heels that made her look much taller than 5'5". Her Kiss t-shirt was torn at the collar, hanging off one shoulder. Peter grabbed my shoulders from behind, gawking. "You're going to get some of that this weekend, I promise you," he whispered. Just then, the girl's boyfriend stepped out of the bathroom. They embraced and kissed. He was an average-looking guy, nothing special. "Look at that," Peter scoffed. "She'd choose you in a heartbeat. Look at that slob she's with. What a loser."
2 burgers and fries. We found a corner table in the loud dining hall. Between bites, Peter told me a story about a concert where he'd shared a joint with a girl he just met. See what I'm saying? Butterfly concert girl's gonna fuck your brains out this weekend, Peter speculated. It was ridiculous, but it made me laugh. Back in my red car, we continued the trek to Buffalo. Peter's curated playlist kept us moving. He danced in his seat, occasionally punching my arm. Punch buggy 1. At least now I knew why my arm was getting bruised. At one point, he got so revved up, he hung half his body out the window at 70 miles per hour. It was reckless, but in the moment, it felt like the definition of fun. As we hit the toll booth, I slowed down and merged into the right lane as Peter directed. I handed over the $4, and we headed for the city. "Second exit," Peter coached. We transitioned onto the 33, heading toward Cal's house. As we slowed for an exit light, a car flew off the highway, blew a red light, and smashed into a passing vehicle right in front of us. "Holy shit!" I yelled. We hopped out to check on the drivers. Once we saw everyone was upright and safe, we got back in and took our turn at the next green. By 6:00 p.m., we were pulling into Cal's driveway. Cal was waiting for us. He had wavy blonde hair that stayed perfectly in place and the build of a wrestler. He was wearing his signature black leather pants. I'd heard an artist once say those get swampy, but I wasn't about to ask Cal. "What's fucking up?" Cal asked, pushing his hair back. He looked like a young Jim Morrison. Peter hopped out and threw a play punch at Cal's stomach. They hugged, and when I reached out for a handshake, Cal pulled me into a hug too. "You gotta hug me, man," he chuckled, leading us inside. The house had a nice windowed porch and beautiful wood floors, but it was clearly a bachelor pad. Dishes were piled high in the sink and half a dozen bags of empty bottles stood in the corner. "We're going out tonight," Cal announced. "You're gonna love this club. Hot girls, wild music, sexy bartenders." Peter reminded him I was only 19. Cal didn't blink. "Hey man, give me your license." I handed it over. Cal sat at the kitchen table, pulled out a fine tip pen, and meticulously curved the tail of the year on my ID until the 5 looked like a 0. "That should do it. You're 21 now. Just make sure you remember your new birthday if the bouncer asks. Got it?" Cal looked at me with sudden, piercing seriousness. "Yeah, got it," I said, my heart hammering. I felt like I'd already been caught. "We should pregame," Peter interjected. "Damn straight," Cal agreed. He pulled a bottle of Jack Daniels from the counter and poured 3 shots. We knocked them back, then another. "Let's go downstairs," Cal said, wiping his mouth. "I hear you play guitar." "A little," I admitted. The basement was a full-blown rehearsal space. Drums in the corner, 4 amps, microphone stands, and a soundboard. Peter handed me a guitar, and we jammed through a few tunes before heading back up for more shots and a game of darts.
0:00 p.m., Cal stood up. "Time to head out." We piled back into my car and buzzed back onto the 33, heading for downtown Buffalo. "You're going to love Diablos," Cal said. It's the shit. I'd never been to a real club before, just local bars where I couldn't even drink. My nerves were humming, but for the first time that day, the excitement was louder than the fear.
Chapter 3, Born Too Slow, by the Crystal Method. We came down the Oak Street exit on the left. "Be careful with this merge," Cal said, pointing as we transitioned. We took a right onto Broadway, followed by another quick turn, and pulled into the Club Diablo's lot. I paid the attendant $5, and we walked toward the bar's dingy black door. The bouncer was a tall man in a black shirt emblazoned with the Diablo Devil. He let the others through without a word, but stopped me to ask for identification. I handed him my chalked license, my chest tightening with the fear he'd noticed the fake. Instead, he just glanced at it and handed it back. We were in. Inside, the DJ was jamming out dark, low, grungy beats. Then Born Too Slow started to play. The club was a cavern of dim, moody light. Splashes of red for ambience illuminating dark red chairs scattered throughout the room. The red light seemed to bleed off the furniture, staining the air like smoke. I walked up to the bar where Cal already had shots waiting for us. I'd done shots earlier and could still recall the way the liquid burned down my throat. It always made me feel like I was going to throw up. Factually, I had in the past. Cal waved me over. "Let's grow some hair on this boy's chest," he joked. I hated being called young, or wet behind the ears, or too green. I disliked people pointing out my age, but I didn't say anything. "Let's do it," Peter said. I grabbed my glass. We lifted our shots for a toast, tapped them back down on the bar, and knocked them back. Just as I remembered, it burnt awfully. Born just a little too slow. The song pulsed on. At the back of the club, a man danced on stage, stretching his legs out like a spider as he moved from left to right. His hands flopped back and forth, similar to a go-go girl. To his right was a girl in a bloody wedding dress and 6-inch platform boots. Her ears were gauged into huge circles. I had gauged mine to a 4, but you could fit several fingers through hers. As she spun, the white of her dress seemed to leave a ghost image behind her, a trailing blur in the red light. She danced like she was in a trance, spinning in circles with her hands waving in the air like a figure skater. Cal grabbed me by the shoulders and handed me a second shot. Down it went. He laughed, and we joined the dance floor. I was cautious, just leaning left to right and bopping my head, but Cal was more animated. With one hand up, he began cutting his way toward the stage where the DJ was playing. I watched him navigate the crowd until Peter came up beside me. Peter was smiling, his hand extended. "Here, eat this," he said, offering me some chocolate. I thanked him and ate it. It tasted earthy, dark, and rich, coating my tongue. We joined Cal in the thick of the crowd and started jumping up and down. The music seemed to get louder. Light from the par can streaked around in different colors. Suddenly, the lights started to linger, almost as if they were moving in slow motion. The air began to feel thick, like I was moving through waist-deep water. I started laughing uncontrollably. I began to bop around more, swinging my arms. My hands felt like they weren't entirely attached to my body. Peter worked his way back to the bar while Cal called me over. Just a little too. The music jammed. Cal kept waving his arm, gesturing for me to join him. I reached Cal and Peter, who were jumping in rhythm. The music grew even louder. In the smoky room, the lights were popping everywhere, a red one to my left, a blue one cutting through the red like an X, and green flashes hitting me directly in the eyes. The green light didn't just flash. It felt like it hummed against my skin. The next thing I noticed, I was jumping right along with them. Born just a little too slow. The singer belted through the large looming speakers flanking the stage. The bass was so heavy it felt like the floor was breathing beneath my feet. I decided to head to the restroom. "Cal, where is the bathroom?" He pointed toward a pathway to the left of the stage. As I made my way through the crowd, a girl in a black corset grabbed my hand. I danced with her for a moment. She pulled me closer, grabbing the collar of my shirt to bring us face to face, and kissed me. It felt magical. Her lips were warm and moist. When I closed my eyes, I saw geometric patterns of red and gold swirling behind my eyelids. When I opened them, her large brown eyes were gazing right through me. She laughed, and I continued toward the bathroom. I wasn't in great need, but I went anyway. I waited in line until I reached the small room, where a large red-headed bouncer stood watching the club's back door. His orange hair seemed to glow, vibrating with a life of its own. Inside, I stood at the urinal. Everything seemed to be moving in slow motion. I moved to the sink to wash my hands, but decided against touching it after seeing that someone had thrown up there. I looked into the faded metal mirror, trying to make out my face. The metal surface seemed to ripple like water. It was blurry at first, but once it cleared, I got a good look at myself. My eyes were so dilated I couldn't see any of the color, just two infinite black pits staring back at me. I laughed at my reflection and headed back out through the crowd. Peter found me immediately. "How did you like the chocolate?" he inquired. "It was tasty," I said. I looked at the flashing strobe light. My hand seemed to disappear and reappear somewhere else. Every movement left a trail of light behind it, like a sparkler in the dark. Every time the light flashed back on, the dancers around me were in entirely different positions, frozen like statues before dissolving into the next movement. Peter asked again, "How did you like the chocolate? It's got magic mushrooms in it." He started laughing. The music and the lights kept echoing. Their delayed, extended noises were becoming so much fun. The sounds weren't just coming from the speakers anymore. I could feel the melody vibrating in my teeth. After a few hours of dancing, we returned to Cal's house with some girls he had picked up. The car was packed with the 5 of us, but since the girls were small, they fit fine. The patterns on the girls' plaid skirt seemed to march and shift as I watched them. One wore a black U-neck T-shirt. The other wore a black and red dress cut just above the knee. When we got back to Cal's, I was exhausted. The guys took the girls to their rooms. I could hear them through the thin walls. The sounds of the house felt amplified, every creak of the floorboard sounding like a drum. Eventually, I drifted off to sleep, knowing I had to be at the concert by 3 p.m. I woke up at 10 and said my goodbyes. Before I left, Cal and Peter pulled me aside. "In this first aid kit is everything you need in case of an emergency. Understand?" Cal winked and tucked the kit into my center console. As I got into my car, they both started chanting, "Get some! Get some!" It made me laugh to think how silly they were. Good people to know. As I began the ride to Columbus, Ohio, the echoes of last night's lyrics played in my head. Born just a little too slow. Hungover, I drove my red compact toward Columbus with my stomach turning. At a gas station, I didn't make it to the restroom in time. In the stall, I cleaned up, trashed my jeans, changed into a spare pair, and kept going. My favorite game played as I reached the concert lot. I texted Butterfly. She was in aisle 12.
Hey, there you are.
She hugged me.
I can't believe you made it. Me too. Shall we go to the gates? Yes, but wait. You smoke weed, right?
We went to my car. I opened the console, and Cal's first aid kit burst open, spilling condoms, coke, weed, and pills.
Can we smoke and do E? I've never done E before. Neither have I. Let's do it.
We shared a joint and each took a pill. Inside, the lights began to glow.
Are you feeling it? Yeah, it's working.
We pushed to the front. She pulled my arms around her waist, and we kissed until a guy nearby laughed.
You two should get a room. Are you going to make love to me later? Yeah, I'd like that. Will you think I'm a slut? Would you think that of me?
She laughed and pressed back against me. We left the show and made love in the back seat under the parking lot lights. Afterward, she lit another joint.
There's this club I like. You want to keep going? Let's go.
The club was really a dive bar. Two guys blocked my path.
Who the fuck are you? I'm here with her. Why are you with my girl?
Butterfly went pale.
We're going to fuck you up.
He grabbed my shirt. I hit a double-leg takedown. As I rose, the jukebox blasted, "Ready, Steady, Go." Red swung, clipped my shoulder, and I grabbed a pool stick. I cracked it across Red's arm. The splintered end caught his eye. I ran.
Get his ass!
I tore through the bar, sprinted outside, vaulted a dumpster, and cleared a fence. Then I hit a dead end. I doubled back into Mullet Man. He slammed me down and kicked my ribs. I grabbed his leg and buckled him, but Red smashed my nose. Blood poured down my face as I staggered toward a crowd.
Shots.
I shoved through the chaos, found my car, and saw rainbow flags lining the block. Red and Mullet Man hit the edge, stopped, and turned around. Shaking, I stumbled to the nearest door. A bouncer looked at my face.
ID. Those guys giving you trouble? Yeah. They won't bother you here. It's a safe space. Go clean your face up.
He let me in, and for the first time all night, I felt safe.
Your woman. Whitetown. I came out of the bathroom looking a little better, though my nose was still throbbing. The brassy, distorted hook of your woman filled the room. I headed to the bar. Whiskey shot and a Coke chaser, I told the bartender. The bartender, James, was a pro. He flipped the bottles behind his back, catching them with a grin, and poured a double that splashed over the rim. James is the name, handsome. Haven't seen you here before. I slammed the shot, the whiskey cauterizing the pain in my face. A group of guys next to me cheered. One of them, a guy named Dave, bought me another round immediately. James, 7 more, and 1 for our handsome friend. We're getting fuckered up tonight, James shouted, joining in. I was feeling the warmth of the alcohol and the kindness of the strangers. Everyone is so nice here, I told James. Do people buy drinks like this often? James smirked. For handsome boys like you? Yes. It's a gay bar, Mike. The world paused for a second. Wow. I didn't know. The rainbow flags didn't give it away. I didn't know what they meant, I admitted, feeling like a small-town idiot. We only have a few gay people in my town. Dave leaned in, his hand on my shoulder. So, you're not gay? No, I chuckled. Well, Dave said with a firm, friendly grip. If you want to get laid, let me take you to the college bar down the street. $5 cover and 25-cent beers. Just don't lose your cup, sexy boy. 25-cent beers sounded like the best thing I'd ever heard. Yeah, I said. Let's go. As we walked to the door, the song faded out. I could never be your woman. I could never be your woman. The bouncer caught my eye as I left. "Be safe," he warned. Those guys walked by twice more. We stepped out into the night. Dave and the bottom boys flanking me like a new kind of security detail.
Weapon of Choice by Fat Boy Slim. The grip on my hand was tightening, an uncomfortable, anonymous pull through the humid surge of the crowd. I didn't know the man leading me, and I didn't know where we were going, but I held on tight anyway. I needed to stay grounded. We surged through the press of bodies and spilled out into what was clearly a frat house in full swing. At the door, the bouncer barely looked up. "Hey, this is Mike," my guide shouted over the bass. "We're coming in. About $5 each?" He shoved a cup into my hand. "You're gonna need this. $1 shots inside, man. Have fun." Before I could find my bearings, he vanished into the swarm of Greek letters and cheap cologne. I stood there, feeling like an island, until a girl in a blue bikini appeared. She had a tray of vials and a grin that suggested she'd already had a few herself. "Would you like a shot?" I looked into her brown eyes. "Yes, I'd love one. What do you have?" "These on the right are good time on the beach. My favorite thing to do, if you know what I mean," she giggled, leaning in. "The others are buttery pips. Just fun to look at if you know what I'm saying." "Give me something sweet," I said. It tasted like tropical sunshine sliding down my throat. "Any time, sweetheart," she chirped, already turning to the next group of guys. I heard her launch into the same routine. "How old are you? 21? Bolshed? Born in 1980? Whatever, dude." It was a frat party. Nobody was telling the truth tonight. I tried to settle in, but the comfort wouldn't come. When the shot girl circled back, I tried the shit of buttery pips. "It's never too quick with me, if you know what I'm saying," she winked. I was starting to realize that was just her catchphrase, a verbal tick fueled by tips and adrenaline. I made sure to drop $1 in her glass. In the corner, I spotted Jeremy. He was a massive guy. Reminded me of that orange cat from An American Tail. Tiger. He was the kind of guy who looked like he'd protect you in a storm. "Hey, you're back," Jeremy boomed. "Back for another beer," I replied. "Man, you've had like 6 drinks plus those shots. You might want to slow down. It's only 11 Mondra p.m. I took his advice and stuck to a refill, but the peace didn't last. The shot girl returned with something new. "Hey, cutie, you want to have a screaming shot with me?" I blinked. "What?" She laughed, pulling me in by the back of my neck. "The drink, silly." We did the shot together, and then she surprised me. A soft, lingering kiss that felt out of place in the middle of the chaos. She felt tiny against me. "Do you kiss all the boys like that?" I asked as she pulled away. "Only the ones I like, if you know what I'm saying," she yelled over her shoulder, disappearing into the next room. I wandered toward the back, where a poker game was starting up. The atmosphere was different here. Sharper, more frantic. Lines of cocaine were being traced across the table. I bought in, trying to pretend I knew the game, but I was out of my depth. I folded a royal flush because I didn't recognize what I had. I even folded face up, earning a round of groans and lessons on bluffing. An hour and a half vanished in a blur of cards and white powder. When I finally excused myself, I ran into a woman who looked like she'd stepped straight out of a Tomb Raider poster. I called her Laura. "I haven't seen you at this college before," she said, her eyes tracking me. "What frat are you?" "I'm not." "Well, you're at a Sigma Alpha party now. You should get to know us." She leaned in close. "I know a room where we can go have some real fun." I followed her. When you find a woman who looks like Lara Croft, you don't say no. We got to the room, and the door clicked shut. "You still holding?" she asked. I pulled out the last of what I had. We were kissing on the bed, lost in the chemical rush, when the door burst open. It was the shot girl. She started screaming, calling me a cheat, while Laura snapped back, calling her a whore who'd been around the block all day. The commotion drew the heavy hitters. It turned out the shot girl's boyfriend was one of the guys from the poker table, and he wasn't thrilled to find out I'd made out with his girl earlier. Suddenly, I was surrounded by 10 frat guys, all of them looking for a reason to swing. I had no idea, I stammered, shaking. I was just here for the party. Then a shadow fell over the group. Jeremy, the tiger, stepped in. He stood between me and the mob, his voice calm but immovable. He told them I didn't go to the school, that I didn't know the rules, and that I was leaving. They escorted me to the door with a little more force than necessary, shoving me down the stairs. I stumbled, hitting the pavement, but I got up and dusted myself off. I checked for my wallet and keys. 1:30 a.m. The night was over. I headed for the car, the echoes of "If you know what I'm saying" still ringing in my ears.
Chapter 8, Extreme Ways. After leaving the frat party, I ran into a man drinking a 40 of Steel Reserve. I asked him if he knew of any bars nearby that were still open. "I know one that's open all night," he replied. "I just need a ride to Hamlet Street. It's only a couple miles from there. I can show you where it is if you drop me off at the shelter." "Sure," I said. "I can do that." He climbed in and told me about a bar on Perry Street called the Outland. He called it a wild place and said I'd fit right in. Looking at the way I was dressed, a punk and all that, he was probably right. When we reached Hamlet Street, I tried to give him $5. He politely refused at first, but I insisted. "I don't need it," I told him. "You do." I doubled back to the Outland and parked. I handed my ID to the bouncer, and once inside, I headed straight for the bar to order one last drink. As I waited, I reached into my pocket and downed my last pill of ecstasy. Just then, Extreme Ways by Moby started to pulse through the speakers. The bartender handed me a shot. "I'll give you this one, but that's it," he warned. "You're pretty far gone already, sir. Did you drive here?" "No," I lied. "Have fun," he said. The world began to blur. Almost immediately, I realized the ecstasy was a mistake. It was too much. A panic attack surged through me. My skin went pale and cold sweat broke out across my forehead. I stumbled to the bathroom to splash water on my face, but my legs gave out and I hit the floor. I woke up to two girls sitting me up and rubbing my back. One told me I'd fainted and suggested I go out to the patio. They gave me some water, and I sat there, pressing the cold bottle against my head while I watched people getting electrocuted. There was a caged area on the patio where people were literally letting themselves be zapped with car batteries. They were screaming, and in my state, it looked like a brilliant idea. I walked up and asked what it cost. $50, and I'll shock you till you're there, the operator said. "You can actually hit it from that?" I asked. The guy currently being electrocuted groaned, "Oh yeah, baby, you can." "Sign me up," I said. They chained me up, and the current hit. Suddenly, my childhood, being beaten, screamed at, told I was worthless and pathetic, came flashing back behind my eyes, triggered by the agonizing, ticklish tingle of the electricity. He let go, then shocked me again. More memories flooded in. The heartbreak of Shelley, the chaos of the evening, the people I'd met. It all collided at the pinnacle of the ecstasy high. I felt a total release. For once, I was truly, deeply happy. When he finally let go and the shocking stopped, he leaned in. "You like that?" "Oh yeah," I managed. "That's something." They let me down. I felt lightheaded and euphoric. But as the high began to fade, my drunkenness dissipated with it. Reality came storming back, cold and hard. I looked at the clock, 2:55 a.m. I didn't want to be in this club for another second. I turned and left. Mike leaves the club and heads for his car, exhausted. His head pounds, his stomach is off, and the night's fun is wearing thin. He rounds the curb, spots his car, then sees red and Mullet Man waiting beside it. His heart slams. He knows right away this is bad. He's tired, slow, and not sure he can outrun them. Then Mullet Man spots him.
Motherfucker! I'm gonna mess you up, motherfucker!
Mullet Man sprints at him. Red follows, yelling.
We're gonna kick your ass!
Mike turns and runs back toward the club on instinct. Their footsteps pound behind him. His lungs burn. He knows he won't make it. Running is the old script. He cuts hard, stops, and turns to face them. I'm done running, he tells himself. I'm not a victim anymore. He knows his reckless night helped bring him here. Now he has to stand his ground and take what comes. He locks onto Mullet Man and charges. They collide and crash to the pavement. Mullet Man keeps swinging. Red joins in. It stops being a fight and becomes a beating. Mike can only hold on and protect himself. A kick smashes him in the face. Another one breaks him loose, but Red catches him again before he can recover. Pain blasts through his nose. Blood fills his mouth and runs into his eye. He thinks his nose is broken. Then he can't move at all. Mullet Man stands over him.
Stay the hell away from my girlfriend, you understand,
Mike barely answers.
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Well, now you do. Stay away.
Mike knows she was cheating on Mullet Man with someone else too, but he keeps his mouth shut. The old Mike would have made it worse. He doesn't. He stays down until Red and Mullet Man are gone. Then he gets up and limps to his car. Every step hurts, but something has changed. He got wrecked, but he didn't keep running, and he didn't answer stupidity with more stupidity. He sinks into the driver's seat and takes one deep breath. Inhale. Exhale. I got this. He turns the key. The engine starts. He nods, puts the car in drive, and heads back toward Buffalo. It feels like the end of being the victim. On my way back to Buffalo, I stopped at a freeway rest stop to grab a burger. Sitting in the booth, I counted down the last of about $500 I had left in cash. I can't believe I made it through this whole weekend on just the $1,000 I took out of the ATM, I thought, a grin tugging at my mouth. I finished my burger, washed the grease off my face in the bathroom, and got back into the car. After posting a few pictures from the weekend online, I shifted into drive and started heading back toward Buffalo to drop Peter off. I turned on the radio and right on cue, How You Like Me Now by The Heavy started blasting through the speakers. I couldn't help but smile. This literally could not have been a better weekend. I had enjoyed every single second of it. By the time I rolled back into Buffalo, I pulled into Cal's driveway. Cal lived in a rough neighborhood, seriously located so close to a hospital that you could literally get stabbed on the street and just crawl to the ER. As I idled the engine, I noticed Shelley. She was leaning up against a car, aggressively arguing about something with Cal and Peter. I rolled down the window and called out, "Hey guys, what's going on?" Shelley whipped around, her eyes locking onto me. "Mike, where have you been? I've been trying to get a hold of you all weekend." I looked at her, completely unfazed. "I've been out here getting away from you. What do you want, Shelley?" "I see you've been out having fun with other girls," she said, her voice dropping, shifting into a tone that was suddenly desperate. It made me realize that I want something more. And you had that. You have that to offer me. You were my solid rock, Mike, And I need that. I need that from you right now. I looked at her for a long moment. When I spoke, my voice was polite, but dead calm. I don't need this from you, Shelley. I am no longer ever going to be your rock. You were never deserving of my steadiness anyway. I leaned a bit closer. I'm not the same man I used to be. You need to move on and get past me. Because the man who used to pine over you is dead, he's gone, and he's not coming back. Her eyes instantly filled with tears. Deep down, I knew I had just broken Shelley's heart, but I felt absolutely no guilt. She had treated my own heart so carelessly for so long that she had starved out my sympathy. I didn't bother apologizing. I didn't offer a comforting word. This is just the way it is, I said flatly. You did this, and I'm over you. The tears spilled down her face. You're the cruelest man I've ever met, Mike, the cruelest man I've ever known. How dare you? How dare you ever talk to me like that? Never again. She stormed over to her car, slammed the door, and sped away, her tires screeching. As the sound of her engine faded, I looked over at the porch. Sure enough, Peter and Cal were sitting there clapping. Man, that was classic, Cal yelled. That was beautiful, Peter chimed in, shaking his head in disbelief. Look at you, man. Look at you. You go away for one weekend and you come back a completely changed man. I laughed, stepping out of the car, and looked at Peter. I think you were right. You were completely right about everything. I just needed to move on. I didn't have to party hard. I didn't have to do drugs. And honestly, I didn't even need the trip itself. I just needed to realize my own self-worth. I needed to know that I'm deserving of something better. I locked my car and looked back at the street. You'd think a person would just be born strong enough to know that. But sometimes it just takes one really good weekend